ubwo abagiye birukanka bazamuka bagana i Nyamata.
So a few who had run going up to Nyamata.
Nkeka ko uyu munsi nta muntu wagiye Nyamata ngo abagihumeka abazima.
I don't think any of the people who ran to that direction, any of them made it up to now, is alive.
Njye ubwo abo twari kumwe,
I remember those who were together.
nisanze ndi jyenyine.
I found myself staying alone.
Nkareba amasura twagendanye nkayabura.
I looked around for the familiar faces we were together and I couldn't find any.
Nahise manuka.
I went down.
Bajyaga tubwira ngo iyo barashe ngo umuntu agendesha inda.
They used to tell us that when you hear gunshots, you crawl on your belly.
Ubwo nari mfite inda y'amezi 7.
I was 7 months pregnant that time.
Nyumvire gukurusa inda y'amezi 7 nkabishobora.
Imagine crawling on your belly with a 9 months pregnancy.
Tugenda twububa mu mingoti, tugera ahantu barasa tukaryama. Mbega urupfu rwawe rwadutashyemo kare.
While there, the death has come to us. I was on a hill, and then they saw us.
Twahagurutse turebana amaso ku maso.
By the time we stood up, they were looking at us face to face.
Ntacyo kuko rufite n'abashoboye kwiruka ntaho bari bwirukankire.
To say, we are dead, we are finished.
Yakamara yari ifite amashara menshi cyane.
There was one banana plant that had a lot of bananas.
Arambwira ati jya muri ariya mashara.
And then she told me, go in those leaves of that banana plant.
Mu mwanya muto nko guhumbya umuyaga urahuha ya mashara ajya hejuru nsigara ngaragara. Narahagaze neza ntuje ndakiyambura njugunya hasi.
I stood there calm and then I removed that backpack.
Ndebana n'interahamwe amaso ku maso.
And then I faced the militias face to face.
Numvaga yuko ubwo byarangiye nyine bagiye kuntema. Baravuga ngo nibamusatura inda ngo barebe ko umwana w'umututsi aba yicaye mu nda.
And then they said they should cut her belly so that they can see how a Tutsi baby is seated in a somi.
Baratemye.
They cut down people.
Abasaba imbabazi ntazo babonye.
Those who were pleading for forgiveness didn't get it.
Baratemye koko barinigura.
Impanuro TV, ishakiro ry'amakuru yizewe.
Uwibambe Beatrice.
Abandi umubyeyi w'umugabo umwe n'abana 5.
And I'm a wife to 1 husband and I have 5 children.
Abakobwa 3 n'abahungu 2.
I have 3 daughters and 2 sons.
Rero nkaba ngiye kubasangiza inzira y'umusaraba twagenze.
And I am going to share with you the journey that our journey during the genocide against the Tutsis in 1994.
Ariko ngiye ko mbibona,
in my perspective,
genocide yatangiye muri 1994.
In my perspective, I don't think the genocide started in 1994.
Njye ubwanjye ababyeyi banjye baturutse mu majyaruguru.
For me, my parents were coming from the northern part of the country.
Muri 59 bacirwa i Nyamata hano mu Bugesera.
In 59 they brought them here in Nyamata.
Babazanye ngo tsetse zabarye ibamari.
They had brought them so that tsetse could kill them. It's a mosquito, so that it could bite them and kill them. It's not how it went.
Imana yarabarinze, hari abapfuye, hari n'abasigaye.
God preserved them. Some died, yes, but God kept others.
Ababyeyi bacu babaye impunzi mu gihugu.
Our parents were like refugees in the country.
Batungwa n'amaposho.
They used to eat posho, that's maize.
Igihe cy'amaposho kirarangira.
That period went on.
Bababwira ko bagomba kubaha amasambu bakajya guhinga.
And then they told them that they would give them plots of land so that they can go and cultivate and farm.
Babahaye amasambu.
They gave them plots of land.
Barabatuza babatuza. Musambu numva barayitaga peyisana. Ubwo ni hegitari 2 ahari.
Those plots of lands were in a certain place and they used to call them peasants.
ntago baheranywe n'agahinda, barahinze, barorora, barabyara, bariyubaka.
They didn't stay in agony and sorrow, but they were able to rebuild their lives and then they reproduced other children.
Kitabishimira.
But while doing that in a country that was not pleased by their presence.
Baratwaje. Ubwo nanjye navukaga.
They held on, and that's when I was also born.
Igihe cyo kujya ku ishuri kiragera, tujya kwiga nk'abandi.
A time of going to school came and we went to school like any other children.
Ariko ikintu cyajyaga kidutangaza.
But what used to amaze us and surprise us,
iyo twabaga tugiye gutangira amasomo,
whenever we were about to start classes,
baraduhagurutsaga.
They used to make us stand up.
Abahutu muhaguruke.
And they would ask the Hutus to stand up, the Tutsis to stand up, and the Twas to stand up as well. But where I used to go for primary school, there were no Twas. We lived through that period and became like our daily food every day. That's what we started class with. But as children, we never knew what was going on and the purpose. So from primary 1 to grade 8, that's the life we lived. Something else is that we didn't really have a lot of chances to study, yet we were wise, we were smart. But we were limited, we were not allowed to get further in education. We knew that we knew that we had to study from grade 1 up to grade 8, and that would be it for our schooling. There were TVET schools. And then for the ladies, they would do education. And that was it for us. So we lived through that period as well. Personally, let me share about myself. I finished grade 8. I had my uncle, a brother to my mom, who lived in Kigali. And then he took me so that I could go and study to one of the schools in Kigali. I went. And before I could start the school, they asked me to go back and bring documents that proved that I had completed grade 8. I came back here. I studied somewhere across the memorial where we were at. I went to find one of my teachers. And I asked them that they could help me find documents that I had finished grade 8. And then they told me, you were smart in class. Are you going to go in a private school yet you were smart? That was in 1888. At that time, it was private schools were expensive. So I told them that if parents have agreed, they will find the money to pay for me. So the teacher took me to the head teacher of the school where I used to go to. And then when we got there, they took me to the school so that they could give me the documents. We went talking a long way. And then when we got to the school, they asked me, have you really decided? And then they said, no, we don't agree. Come and repeat the class, then next year you will pass. At that time, they used to not even allow us to repeat a class. So I got that quickly, and then I believed that the next year I would pass. It's not how it went. I again found myself not allowed to pass the class.
Marume arababara cyane.
My uncle was devastated.
Arambwira ati reba umwanya utaye ubugiye mu wa kabiri.
And he told me, see the time that you've wasted, now you have gone in grade 9.
N'ubundi gihe kikiriho.
But for me, I didn't mind because I felt like there was still time.
Nyuma yaho ubwo,
after that,
naje byageze muri 90.
In 1990 came.
Ariko marume ntiyacitse intege, yarambwiye ati,
but my uncle didn't give up, so he told me, come back still home, I will still find you a school.
Nibuka ko ku itariki ya mbere z'ukwa 10 muri 90.
I remember on 1st October in 1990.
Navuye i Kigali ngera mu rugo.
I came from Kigali to home.
Ndibuka ko nasanze mama teri ntabire haruguru y'urugo y'ibishyimbo.
I remember my mom was planting bean seeds.
Ariko numva itangazo rivuga ko ingabo za RPF Inkotanyi zabohoje igihugu, zatangiye urugamba rwo kubohoza igihugu.
But I heard an announcement saying that the RPF army had started the war of liberating the country.
Byatugendekeye nabi.
It didn't go well with us.
Tubura amahoro.
We didn't have peace.
Bavuga yuko inyenzi ari bene wacu.
Because they said the then called cockroaches, inyenzi, were their relatives.
Ubwo umutekano muke waratangiye kujya Kigali nta wambukaga hariya ku Kagera.
Insecurity started there on, and going to Kigali was impossible to cross the river.
Cyakora abantu bafite irangamuntu bajyaga babaha laissez-passer bakagenda.
But a few people who had ID cards, they were given the documents that permitted them
rero wari umwana
to
utaragera n'igihe cyo gufata irangamuntu.
As a young child who was not even allowed to get an ID card,
ntabwo nari kuhambuka.
That time I couldn't pass and cross to Kigali. So I was devastated.
Basa no kunyohereza itangazo kuri Radio Rwanda.
They even sent me an announcement on Radio Rwanda.
Rimbwira ngo ningiye kwiga, icyo gihe nari ngiye kwiga Saint Andre.
Telling me to go to study to a school called Saint Andre.
Mburi byangombwa nkajya mbwira papa nese wagiye kuri komine ukansabira irangamuntu n'ubwo ko bashobora kuyiguha.
I couldn't find documents, and I used to ask my dad if he could go and beg for me.
Mwana wanje urabona amahoro ni make, nta nubwo twakurekura ngo wijyane wenyine Kigali.
My dad told me that
amahoro naboneka usaba wiga.
My dad told me that there was insecurity, there was no way they could send me to Kigali alone, and then he told me to stay back home until the peace would come. I stayed back home.
Ubwo ndi mwaka uramfashe abana twiganaga bari bageze mu wa 3.
That's another year that came, and the people were together were now in grade 10.
Bambwira no kujya kwiga kuri APEBU, ndeba ukuntu ngiye kwigana n'abana nasise mu wa 5, ndabyanga.
They asked me to go to another school, and I saw how I was going to study with people
ariko ubuzima burakomeza.
Who were behind me, and I refused, but
twakomeje rero kuba muri iyo ntambara.
We lived still in that war.
Muri ubwo buzima ndagenda nicara mu rugo iwacu.
I went and stayed back home.
92 rero iragera.
Then came 1992.
Baza kugerageza genocide hano mu Bugesera.
And they came in this region of Bugesera to test or to try the genocide.
Icyo gihe abantu barahunga bava mu rugo bajya Nyamata kuri paruwasi.
People fled to the parish in Nyamata.
Mayange baratwika.
In Mayanje they burnt out houses.
Ndibuka ko hari na marume wa mama batwikiye mu nzu.
I remember there's even an uncle of my mom that they burnt in his house.
Ariko hagati ubwo impunzi sari kuri paruwasi.
But as the people had fled to the parish,
ari umuzungu wari hafite ikigo cy'ishuri cya Serayi bitaga Antonio Rokati.
There's a white man who had a teaching school there.
Bimanya amazi bayima impunzi.
They denied water to the refugees.
Amahoro umuzungu biramucanga arasakuza amahanga arabimenya.
And then the refugees were troubled, and then the white man had to tell other people outside the country. So they gunned that white man down, and he was killed.
Ubwo impunzi ariko hagati aho hariya icyugaro hari ahantu bita hari igishanga.
There's a wetland around that area
Ntarama na Rulindo
that separates the place called Rulindo and this Ntarama.
Hari ibitero byambukaga bifasa Musenyi baje gutera kwica abatutsi bahani Ntarama.
That's where the militia troops used to cross from there, coming to kill the Tutsis in this area.
Ibitero barabikumiriye.
They fought against those groups.
Birahosha n'impunzi zari kuri paruwasi zirataha ariko hagati ahubwo natwe twararaga mu bihuru nubwo tutagiye Nyamata.
But while they were fighting against those troops and the refugees came back, for us we were staying in the wetlands.
Ubwo rero twabonye agahenge gakeya.
After getting a bit of ease,
ubuzima burakomeza twumva ko ari amahoro yacu make tugomba kubamo.
Life went on, and we understood that it was that minimal peace we used to get, and then we had to live on that. Then came 93. That was the end of my schooling for me. And then I was married off in August 93. I went and started a family. I was blessed and to get children, and then we got into 94 in April on the 7th.
Twagiye kumva nijoro mugabo yaratashye acururisaga hano kuri Arite.
My husband was a seller around here, and then he came back home at night.
Hari ahantu yaciye ku gasantere hari abantu batuye hano hari kwa Rugaje.
He passed by one of the centers around here.
Yari kumwe n'abantu b'abasaza.
He was with some elder people.
Arataha arambwira atari ko hari ibintu twabonye by'ibishashi ntabwo tuzi byari byo ariko ni ikintu cyavugisha induru.
And then he told me there are things like flashlights we saw, we don't know what it is, but it's something that made noise.
Twararyamye buracya.
We slept that night, and in the next morning.
Ariko mu gitondo muri radio hasamo ibintu bya classic.
And then in the morning it came some classic things.
Hanyuma batangira kuvuga ko Habyarimana yahanutse.
And then they started saying that the president had died.
Twebwe bari bakiri bato twumvise yuko ubwo ikinani gipfuye amahoro agiye guhinda.
For us who were still young, we thought that now that the president who was the lead is dead, now we are going to have peace.
Ariko abari bakuru,
but the older ones,
baratubwira bati turashize.
They told us that we are finished.
Koko bakabivuze niko byagenze.
And just like they said, that's what happened.
Itariki 7 ubwo mu gitondo,
the morning of the 7th,
bahise bavuga ngo abantu bahere mu ngo.
They told us to all stay back at home.
Kandi ntihagire abantu babiri bahagararana.
And no, they didn't allow us two people to stand together.
Tugume mu ngo zacu.
That everyone should stay in their houses.
Ntabwo ariko byagenze twabuse amahoro.
That's not how it went, because we were all troubled.
Tutangira gukwira imishwaro tugendagenda mu muhanda.
And we started running all over around in the roads.
Ku buryo n'umubyeyi wari uhetse atibukaga ko afite umwana uri bumubaze ibyo kurya.
To the extent even a mother who had a child on their backs, they could not even think that a child is going to ask for food.
Nzira y'umusaraba rero tuyihera ubwo.
And that was our agonist journey.
Turirukanka.
We ran.
Tandukana n'ababyeyi.
We separated from our parents.
Tandukana n'abavandimwe.
We separated from our relatives.
Bego ubwo ni bya bindi umwe byabaye gukisa amagara ye.
It was like the saying that says that everyone had to now look out for their own lives.
Hanjye navuye Ntarama.
Like for me, I left Ntarama.
Ngera hano kuri Arite.
And I reached here around at Arite.
Njya kwa data bukwe.
And I went to my father-in-law.
Mpageze.
Reaching there.
twarahiriwe.
We spent the day there.
Ariko ubwo impunzi zatangiye kuba nyinshi.
But as people, the refugees were becoming more.
Hano ku Cyeru hari ahantu hari urusengero rw'abakatolike.
There's a Catholic church around here.
Haruguru yaho hari amazu y'ibigonyi menshi batangiye gutwika.
Close to that church they had started burning down many houses.
Ubwo nyine ntabwo wabonaga bagutwikiye ngo uhagarara aho, banatwikaga barangije kugenda.
So they would not burn down your house and you stand there. By the time they would start burning houses, you would leave.
Twabaye impunzi nyinshi hano kuri Arete.
We were so many refugees around here at Arete.
Turyama ahantu hari utubari.
There was somewhere where there used to be bars. That's where we used to sleep.
Bukeye twahise tujya kuri umusozi wa hakurya bita Kayumba.
But then the next morning we went to one of the hills here called Kayumba.
Umusozi twawiriweho.
We spent the whole day there at that hill.
Turaraho.
We spent the night.
Ubwo byari bigeze mu matariki 11.
And then it was reaching on the 11th of April.
Mu gitondo nka saa 3.
Around 9 a.m.
Abantu twahasanze b'abaturage.
The people we found there
bashatse uburyo bateka ibikoma kugira ngo babashe gufasha impunzi ziri aho ngaho. Ababyeyi abana batangiye kubarirana.
They tried to find a way of cooking porridge to help the refugees who were coming, especially the mothers who had babies who had started crying.
Ku murongo w'abagiye kugura igikoma.
I remember I was also on the line of the queue of people who were going to buy that porridge.
Ntabwo ibyo byemeye.
It did not work out.
Bahise batushoramo amasasu menshi cyane.
Because while we were there, we started hearing gunshots coming to us. Baraturasa hahandi wabonaga amasasu ari nk'urubura rurimo kugwa. They gunned down us to the extent gunshots were like raindrops coming to us.
Mbega ibintu byahinduye isura.
Cows, people were so sorrowful and so dark at that point.
Ubwo abagiye birukanka bazamuka bagana Nyamata.
So a few who had run going up to Nyamata.
Nkeka ko uyu munsi nta muntu wagiye Nyamata ngo abagihumeka abazima.
I don't think any of the people who ran to that direction, any of them made it up to now is alive.
Ubwo abo twari kumwe.
I remember those who were together.
Nisanze ndi jyenyine.
I found myself staying alone.
Nkareba amasura twagendanye nkayabura.
I looked around for the familiar faces we were together and I couldn't find any.
Nahise manuka.
I went down.
Bajyaga tubwira ngo iyo barashe ngo umuntu agendesha inda.
They used to tell us that when you hear gunshots, you crawl on your belly.
Ubwo nari mfite inda y'amezi 7.
I was 7 months pregnant that time.
Nyumvire gukurusa inda y'amezi 7 nkabishobora.
Imagine crawling on your belly with a 9 months pregnancy.
Tugenda twububa mu mingoti tugera ahantu barasa tukaryama.
We went bowing down, and when we would hear gunshots, we would slide down.
Nisanze ngeze hano hasi mu gishanga.
And then I found myself down here in a wetland that is down here.
Ubwo nagiye mu gihuru.
So I went in the bushes.
Ndicara mbona ndi Ngenyine.
And I stayed there, finding myself alone.
Ariko ko umunota wagiye ushira niko wabonaga mwene wanyu.
But as time was going by, a minute after minute, you find one of the relatives, and they would ask you, how did you get here? And what happened to those we were together? There was no other answer except saying, I just found myself here as well. We spent the whole day in that bush. And that was on the 11th, and we spent the night there. The 12th, we spent the night there as well. But on the evening of the 12th, we had started becoming a lot of us who had come from being together as people came from Kayumba. There's a Hutu man called Stanley who was a seller around here.
ariko yahingaga mu gishanga ahingamo imboga amashu n'intoryi.
And he used to farm cabbages and eggplants in the wetland.
Ntabwo yatuvugishije ahubwo twe twibwiye ko aje kureba imyaka ye.
So he didn't speak to us, so we thought he was coming to see his plants.
Kumbi yari aje kureba abantu bahari.
But he had come to find the people who were there.
Bugacya bakatusanira igitero cyo kutwica.
So that the next morning they will bring a troop that is going to kill us.
Baraje baratureba.
They came and then they saw us.
Barataha.
And then they went back home.
Mu gitondo rero ababyeyi babyuka bashakira abana ibyo kurya.
So the next morning mothers woke up to find something to feed their babies.
Yari nko mu masayine.
It was around 10 a.m.
Twica hano twagandagaje mu rugo rw'umusaza bitaga Gashabizi.
We were seated in one of the elder men called Gashabizi.
Yako ndibuka ko umusaza yari afite inka.
I remember that old man had cows.
Arugarira amarembo.
And then he closed the gates.
Wenda abana b'uyu munsi bugarisaga ibintu by'ibiti.
For the young people of today, they used to close the gates with some big trees.
Yanga ko inka ze zijya kurisha.
He denied his cows to go out so that they can eat the grasses.
Mbega urupfu rwawe rwadutashyemo kare.
While there, the death had come to us already.
Ubwo bagiye gushaka gutema ibitoki baratemye baratetse.
Some went to find the bananas so that they could cook.
Twari kumwe n'umugabo bita Habarugira.
We were with one man called Habarugira.
Yurira igiti.
And then he climbed the tree.
Aratubwira ati interahamwe zabagesemo. Niba muri gita, niba mwiruka, ntago nzi icyo mukora byarangiye.
And then he told us the militias have found us. I don't know what you're going to do, if you're going to just spread out, if you're going to run, I don't know what you're going to do, but it is done.
Saraje sijya hejuru yacu ku mukingo.
They came above us on a hill, and then they saw us.
Twagurutse turebana amaso ku maso.
By the time we stood up, they were looking at us face to face.
Ntacyo kuko rufite n'abashoboye kwiruka ntaho bari bwirukankire.
We didn't have anything to do. Even those who could be able to run, they couldn't find a way to run. But our God is able to protect.
Hari umukecuru masenge yarambonye arambwira ati mwana wanjye se turapfuye birarangiye.
There's an older woman who happened to be my aunt. She looked at me and then she said, we are dead, we are finished.
Yakamara yari ifite amashara menshi cyane.
There was one banana plant that had a lot of bananas.
Arambwira ati jya muri ariya mashara.
And then she told me, go in those leaves of that banana plant.
Mu mwanya muto nko guhumbya umuyaga urahuha ya mashara ajya hejuru nsigara ngaragara.
Within few seconds, the wind blew and then the leaves of that banana plant were up and then I remained visible.
Navuyemo ndahagarara shaka icyo gukora ariko ubwo batangiye kwirukankana abantu.
I left there and then I stood, but then at that time they had started running after people.
Yari ifite agakapu karimo ibitenge nka bitatu mpetse mu mugongo.
I had a backpack that had like 3 fabrics wraps.
Narahagaze neza ntuje ndakiyambura njugunya hasi.
I stood there calm and then I removed that backpack.
Ndebana n'interahamwe amaso ku maso.
And then I faced the militias face to face.
Numvaga yuko ubwo byarangiye nyine bagiye kuntema.
I thought that it was done for me and they were going to cut me down.
Nakebutse inyuma nk'umuntu urumva ko nta n'intege nke nari mfite zo kwirukanka.
I didn't have enough strength to run away, so I looked back a bit.
Nakebutse inyuma yanjye mpabona icyobo kirekire gicukuye.
I looked behind me and I found a deep hole that was dug.
Ndavuga nti rero ibintu ni bibiri ni ukugwa muri iki cyobo bakanyicisha amabuye cyangwa nkirukanka nkajya mu masaka.
So I said there's 2 things, either I run into the sorghum fern or I just go straight in this pit and then they're going to stone me down. Our Lord always finds his ways. I jumped into that pit and then went into those sorghum. In front of me there was an old woman.
He
had some relatives here in one family called Maria.
avuye mu masaka agiye ahabona.
She was in front of me coming out of the sorghum and going where she would be seen.
Bahita bavuga ngo icyo gikecuru cy'igikara ni mu kigandagure.
And then they said, just kill down that black old woman.
Nta na metero yari hagati yanjye nawe.
There was not even 1 meter away between me and her.
Nge nahise mpagarara aho ngeze.
So I stood right where I was.
Kintu nakoze nikubise hasi ndyama nubitsinda.
So what I did, I just fell down and then fell on my belly.
Nibuka ko nari niteze igitambaro cya Burenze.
I remember I had a light blue veil on my head.
Nkikuramo n'ibitenge nari nkenyeye byikuraho.
I removed it and all the wraps I had around me, I removed them.
Bishyira ku ruhande ntiwenda nibangeraho barabona ko napfuye bankubise nk'ubuhiri.
So I put them aside thinking that maybe if they find me they will think that I am already dead, I was killed.
Nipfuriraho ibyatsi bita urwiri.
So there was one of the grasses that she poured on
herself. Nshaka kwishushanya nk'intumbi.
So that she could resemble herself as a dead body.
Bantu twari kumwe barapfuye bose bararangira dusigaramo turi abantu babiri.
Of all the people we were together, they were all killed, they were dead, and then we remained only 2 of us.
Ariko ubwo mu by'ukuri aho narindi.
But truly where I was,
uri abantu bacu bapfuye. Roho yabaga yagiye kera batemaga igipampara cy'umubiri.
For people who were killed, honestly, they were dead before they were even killed. By the time they were cut down, it was just a body that they were killing.
Numvaga abantu bicwa bataka, hari n'umugore wari utwite.
I heard people being killed and screaming. There's even one lady who was pregnant.
Baravuga ngo nibamusatura inda ngo barebe ko umwana w'umututsi aba yicaye mu nda.
And then they say they should cut her belly so that they can see how a Tutsi baby is seated in a
nanjye aho narindi numvaga yuko ariko bagiye kunyica.
And for me where I was, I thought that is how I was going to be killed.
Akwintera hamwe sacaga hepfo yanjye haruguru hirya hino ntabwo bigeze bambona.
Because the militias were just moving around me, up and down, but they never saw me.
Baratemye.
They cut down people.
Abasaba imbabazi ntazo babonye.
Those who were pleading for forgiveness didn't get it.
Baratemye koko barinigura.
They cut down people to their own satisfaction, really.
Gihe cyarageze bafuza ifirimbi.
A time came when they blew the trumpet.
Ngo nibavemo bagiye gusahura kuri arete ngo badasanga abandi babimaze.
And then they asked them to leave that place so that they can go and then take away things of people before they were finished.
Bahise begukira rimwe nta numwe wasigayemo.
They all raised and went, no one remained there.
Ngiye ubwo nasiga aho ngaho numva nsigaye ngenyine.
So for me, I stayed there thinking I was the only one remaining. Because I was hearing screams everywhere, so I thought everyone we were together were killed. Shortly after, I heard someone moving around in that sorghum farm. And then when they reached to me, they asked me, are you alive? And then I kept quiet. I thought now they have found me, they're going to kill me. And then they told me I'm Maria, the sister to Simeon, the wife to Kagambake. But whatever she was telling me, I didn't hear it because it felt like I was someone who was dreaming. I was there, but not really there. And then she asked again, are you alive? The only word I said is, kill me, I will not ask for forgiveness, because even those who pleaded for forgiveness, you did not give it to them. And then she told me, I am not a killer. Open your eyes and see me. It was hard, but I tried a bit. And then when I looked at her, I screamed and said, Maria, are you also here? And And then she told me everyone is killed, and all my children and my husband, my brothers and their children and their wives. Everyone else is finished. It's just me and this child. We are together. And then she asked me if I was not hit by a wood, and I said no, no one reached you. And then I said no. And then she told me, now sit down. I had sat for a long on my tummy, sleeping on my tummy in pits down here. So I tried my best so that I can sit up. And then she told me what we are going to do. We are going to give these people water. We are going to tie their hands. And then I said, I can't do that. And then she told me, hold my child. And then I told her, your child doesn't know me. They might cry, and then these people come back. It was so bad to the extent even the wind would blow on the sorghums, and then I would think that they are coming back. That lady took me out of those sorghums and then put me outside. And then we sat there as we were seeing some other who had went on another hill coming down. And everyone was saying the horrors that they have seen. But then in the meantime, I had told Maria, that lady, there's a man who was our neighbor called Florian. And then I asked her, because I went to the same school with one of their daughters, if they could not hide us, since their mother is also an old woman who is really a good person. That lady Maria told me, we are going, but we are the one who are saving ourselves. They are the one who are going to slaughter us. But because Maria's family was dead, all of them, she was really not alive anymore. So she was just like a dead person moving. So we gave up on that. But we wondered where else we could go, and we could not really figure out. In the evening around 4 p.m., still seated in that wetland. But we said, whatever comes, they were not done killing these people. They used to kill a person, and then they would take away their clothes, and then they would also find some other things in their clothes. So we remained with the question of saying they are going to come back to finish these dead bodies, and then they will find us. As it was getting darker, I saw one old man of here in Ntarama. He was called Kabera. And then I asked him, old man, how can you help me so that I can go back home in Ntarama? And then he told me, as you see, do you think we will be able to cross over that arete in Ntarama? He told me, you guys just sleep here. And early in the morning, we'll see if we can find a way to just go up
turebe ko tubasha kwambuka kuri arete tugana Ntarama.
And we will see if we can be able to cross that arete to go to Ntarama.
Twaciye hano umuntu nta ureba undi ngo amumenye.
We passed here and no one could even recognize another person.
Twambutse hano kuri arete nta n'inyoni caracara.
We crossed here at arete without even a bird passing by.
Tugera Ntarama.
And then we reached Ntarama.
Tugeze mu kisunguruko.
And then when we reached at the roundabout, I met with my cousins. And then I asked them, are you guys still alive? And then they told her that they're still there because they went to one place near the memorial. So I asked them, is your dad and mom still there? And they told me they're still there except you and your younger sister are the ones we could not find. So I went and found my parents where they were seeking refuge in the bushes. I found that my mom had almost gone crazy because she had lost her children even before and when others still had their children. And then she asked me, my child, where are you coming from? I told her I went through many places, I can't tell all of them. And then she said that your husband passed here yesterday telling me that they had killed you. And then I asked, where is he? And then she told me that I had crossed to another hill called Mugina. I stayed with my parents, and that was coming to the 14th. We stayed there that whole day. I even went to the church where there's a memorial today to visit some people who were there. And reaching there, I found that there was really a lot of people. And then I asked them, what security or what protection do you guys have here? I told them at the hill of Kayumba they have really finished everyone. On another hill called Nyarukobwa they have killed everyone. And then I told them the gathering of you all as many is what is allowing the Hutus to finish all of you. They could not really understand it because it had not come up to them, and they would see me. They saw me as a crazy person. So I greet them, and then I told my mom, let's just go back and I won't go to rest in the bushes where we were hiding. But on that 14th, many people took the journey to heading to Kigali, so that they could, hoping that they could meet with the RPF. I saw them and thinking back at how I've come from this area. And I used to just say that they are serving themselves, they will be killed just as they are serving themselves to the killers. Then came the 15th April, the next day. So I told my mom, let's go back to see those people at the church. We went and we visited relatives, friends, neighbors, so many people. Most of our relatives died in that church. Right after that house that stores clothes at the memorial, when we were reaching there. But going back a bit,
urugamba ruri ahantu bahita ku ipironi ni mu mpinga.
As we were coming down around 9 p.m., there was a fight happening somewhere called... There were some militias from Kibungo who were fighting with the Tutsis. They fought with stones and spears. And then came gunshots. And then they ran after them.
ubwo mu kuva ku Kiliziya narazamutse duhitana n'abasore biruka basimbuka ibihurungu byo dusize inyuma ntibidukurikire.
So coming back from the church, we met with young men who were running, saying that they don't want what they are leaving behind to come after them.
Ngira mama ntibirarangiye batugezemo.
And then I told my mom it is done. They are now in they
have reached us. Tujye mu Kiliziya.
So my mom told me, let's go to the church.
And
then I told her I would not go into the church. And then she told me, what will I do for you? And then we found a small bush around close to us. And then we just entered into that bush. So the militia groups came down across us, and then they were asking, in this bush there are no people really. They even tried to throw some stones in. But there were so many more to be killed in the church. They said, let's just go to kill in the church. If there are people here, even tomorrow is another day. They reached to the church, and then we had them tearing down the house, burning things. It was smelly, and then our people saw the horror. They threw grenades, they threw stones, they threw spears. Everything that was possible was thrown to them. And I was in that bush with my mom. And then it reached 5 p.m. We felt to get out of that bush because we felt like the militias had not left the place. But then I decided to come out. I was hearing some people's voices speaking, but I didn't know who they were. So I tried to just walk up to them, and then I found that they were some of our relatives who had escaped. And then they told me, your sister Mahoro was cut the neck down. And then I asked, where is she? They told me that she was taken to one of the schools nearby. And then they said that some and other people who were still breathing a bit, they took them slowly up to that school. I said, everywhere I'm getting, they're coming to kill. Even when I go to the school tomorrow, they will come and kill us. So I told my mom, I'm not going to the school. I'm just going to go to one of the soldiers who was our neighbor. At first, my mom was hesitant and said, I will let you go alone. But then she realized that maybe I had been troubled, and then she just said, let's just go, but we are serving ourselves to them. We went and we got to that soldier's house, and then we stayed the night there. But when we reached there in the evening, the militias who were coming from the church came and found us there. They put us in a house, and then they told us, you will be staying in the bushes during the day, and then you will only come at They kept us for one day, and then the second day the militias came and took us out of the house. They came and they took us out, and then they made me stand in the door at the back of the house. I met with one of the Hutu who was a helper in the house close to ours. And then he told me, the machete I have cannot slaughter that belly of yours. And he told me, stay there, I'm going to sharpen it and then I'll come slaughter you. I stayed there at the back of the house. I didn't have anywhere else to run from. Some had left in the house. I saw that they came and they passed me and they went to another house up where I was from where I was standing. And as he was sharpening his machete, I just walked up into that other house. I tried to climb the window, but I failed. But the God of heaven lifted me. I don't know how I got in, and I don't know how I jumped out. I found myself falling on the other side in stones, big stones. And then I continued into the bushes. Then came the night and we came back to that house. The wife in that house said, you guys have escaped them today, but I don't think you would do the same tomorrow. She told us that the days I've kept you guys, I don't want to see your dead bodies here tomorrow morning. She told my mom, you are the oldest among these people. We are hearing that your relatives are in the wetland in Kyugaro. You guys just walk during the night and go find your relatives, because if they find you here in the morning, they will kill you. And then we told them, the militias are the one who sleep at the gates of your gates, so how are we going to pass? She said, I'm going to give you my children. One is going to go in front of you, another one behind you. And then they'll go get you to Kayumba, and then you guys can keep working. That what happened. We were walking on our toes so that they could not hear our feet sound. And then we got on one of the roads heading up to the school in Kyugaro. And yes, we found our relatives there, and then we walked together going into that wetland. We went and hid ourselves in that wetland, but it was also not easy. It was a wetland that had a lot of water. But at 8 a.m. in the morning, we had to come and sit in that water. But after the killing at the church, there came some buses. They called for help, saying that there are many Tutsis in Bugesera who are hard to kill. And they asked for reinforcement of people from the western and the northern part of the country to come to help kill them. So the buses came, and then they shoot, they killed, they slaughtered. But then they said, so the Tutsis you guys called us for, we didn't really see them. So the journey in the wetland became our daily journey. We went in that water, but it did not prevent them from finding us there. They would come and then throw grenades there.
bagatinya amazi ariko bakatuvugiriza induru ngo abatutsi basimbuye inkende mu rufunzo.
They used to be afraid of us, but they used to be afraid of the water, but then they would scream and say that the Tutsis have replaced the monkeys in the wetland.
Ubwo rero igihe twari tugesemo nta n'amatariki umuntu yarakibuka twabonaga bucya bukira.
The time we were in, no one even remembered which date we were at. We just saw a day come by and go.
Kwibasa amaherezo yacu bikatuyobera ubutabazi tuzabona tukabubura.
We used to think of what is going to be the end. We could not really understand what will be the end, where our help will come from. We couldn't really fathom all of that.
Twongeye rero guhura n'ikindi gitero cya Karundura ku itariki 30 z'ukwa kane.
We met again with another devastating militia group.
That
wetland they were scared of, they now went into it.
Ku itariki 30 z'ukwa kane barishe igifunzo barakishagashaka ku buryo umuntu wasigaye ni wandi uvuga ngo nabonye ukuboko kwawe Mana.
On the 30th April, they came in the wetland and they killed really seriously, to the extent that the person who survived is the person today who says that I have seen your hand, Lord.
Nubwo abacu bari bamaze guheramo ntibyatubujije kongera kujya twirirwanamo.
Though our people had been extremely killed in that wetland, it did not prevent us from staying with them there.
Urugendo rwacu rwarakomeje.
Our journey continued.
Bega ubuzima bwatangiye ariko kutunanira.
But then we had started to get tired of life.
Abantu bacitse intege nta mahere nta mbega nta butabazi tubona imbere yacu.
People were very tired and we could not find help anywhere near.
Go twagiye tugeze mu kwa gatanu.
Then came May.
Ku itariki 14 z'ukwa kane.
On the 14th of May.
Tugiye twumva byari mu gitondo hake ariko nko masambiri.
It was in the morning around 8 a.m.
Baratubwira ngo inkotanyi zaje.
And then they told us that Inkotanyi RPF has come.
Turavuga tuti rero buriya barimo baratubeshya bagiye kuturundanya.
Then we said they are probably lying to us, they just want to gather us together.
Abari mu bihura bari mu rufunzo bose bajya habona hanyuma baduteremo amagrenade.
Those in the bushes, those in the wetlands, so that they can come where they are visible and then they will grenade us down.
Twanse kubyemera twabyemejwe n'abana bacu twabonye.
We refused to accept it until we saw some of our children that we could see.
Ariko itariki 14 zitaragera twagiye kubona ahantu twari turi muri Senide hitegeye Rurindo na Samusenyi.
But before the 14th, we saw where we were at.
Tubona abantu bikoreye uburago bashoreye ihene intama nta dutero twaje kudutera noneho tukibaza ibyabaye.
We saw some people working, taking their goats, taking their lambs, just walking with their mats without any militia groups coming, and then we were confused at what was going on. But what was happening then is that the Hutus were just running away. But we didn't really know what it was until we saw the RPF coming to us. And they told us, be still. If those who are not dead, they will never die again. So they took us out of the wetland. There were so many wounded people. And those we left in are so many more. There are some they could not even find a way of carrying them. So we left them. I hope they will not blame us for not taking them, because there's no way we could carry them. So they took us out, and then they took us when we reached to a place called Career. They asked us, "Are you guys still don't believe that you are resurrected?" We sat near a Pentecostal church there. And then they told us, you guys just take a little break as we take you to Nyamata. They took us to Nyamata. Now there are houses, but it used to be a playground. We spent the whole day sleeping. Ubwo abakiri bato abasore batangira gushakisha ibyo bambara, twavuyemo inda zaratwishe, nta myenda dufite, imyenda yaratwereyeho. We came out with the birds eating us. We didn't have our clothes were torn down, so the young people started finding some clothes that we could wear. And basically, you would say that we had come from hell coming back to life. Then we started life again. After seeing that we had survived. But the pain and the sorrow was so deep of our people that we had left. Our people that we had lost who were not dead. Ubuzima bwaratangiye, abantu bajya gushakisha amazu babamo, bajya gushakisha ibyo bambara, ibyo kurya. So life started again. People went to find houses to stay in, clothes and food to take. Wari waratandukanye n'umugabo rero mu kwa kane. As for me, who had separated with my husband in April, nongeye kumubona mu kwa gatandatu avuye Kabgayi. I saw him, I reunited with him again in June when he was coming from Kabgayi, that's in the south of the country. He came and found me. He found me in a very bad situation. I had malaria and I was even finding it hard to even breathe. On the 16th June, I gave birth to that child I was pregnant with. I gave birth to a healthy baby. Today she's a big girl. She's the one called Aline. She's still there. I thank God who kept me with my pregnancy. Life went on, and then we realized that we had to find our ways of living. For those like me who wanted to study and could not get a chance, I realized that I needed to go back to school. But in between there, I started trying to find a life out of doing commerce and business. Then my husband joined as well. He knew how to drive, so he worked with other people. They used to just drive around with other people. There were no payments at that time. And then I realized that I needed to sell something so that I can find a life. Even if it was the little things. My husband used to drive the vice, one of the leaders here. At that time, the bridge around here was broken, so they used to pass in another way, heading to Kigali. And then I would ask him to bring me a box of cigarettes. And then I started selling small by small.
ntangira inzira yo kwiyubaka.
And then I started to rebuild and to renew myself.
Ibyo kwiga birarangiye, hari umubyeyi yari umuvandimwe wa mama.
So I gave up on studying. From there, there's a lady who was a sibling, a relative to my mom.
Rambwira ati dore ubyaye kabiri. Umuntu yiga ashaka amafaranga.
I told her, you have 2 children. Someone goes to school so that he can get money.
Ahubwo komeza umwuga watangiye uzarihirira abana bawe bige neza ayo utise bazayiga.
And then I told her, just you keep working for children so that they can learn, so that even the school that you did not go to, they will go to it.
Ntabwo nabitinzeho nahise numva ko ampaye impanuro kuko
I felt that that was an advice that woman was giving me.
Then
I kept on doing my business of selling things. I sold things and it worked out, and then I started rebuilding my life. I put my children in school, and life went on. So after being shattered by after saying in brief that agonistic journey, I cannot conclude without thanking the soldiers who were part of the RPF Inkotanyi, led by our president, His Excellency Paul Kagame. Inkotanyi gave us life. And we were back to a country that didn't have darkness, that had peace. May God continue to bless them. I cannot conclude without sharing with you a word of God. Isaiah 40 verse 1. Comfort my people. That's what the Lord says. Total comfort does not come from anywhere else. It's not in families. It's not from what we own, but it comes from our Lord. You who is broken, you who is tired, who is heartbroken, be strong, because the voice of your Lord is comforting you. Trust him because he's your peace. He's the peace of those who trust in him. The Lord is on your side. May he strengthen you to stand strong in him. God is the one who gives comfort. I'm telling you who is weary and tired, you who is still wounded, you who sits today and goes back to 1994. I'm telling you, look up to God. He's able of everything. There's nothing that is impossible to him. Thank you. Let us remember as we renew ourselves.
Impanuro TV, ishakiro ry'amakuru yizewe.